Hi friends. Welcome to Wednesdays with Whitney. And today I'm going to talk about failure. Did everybody just get like a feeling in their stomach when I said that word? Did anybody get that feeling because you've been feeling a lot of it lately? I know I have. So I thought I would come on here and address this, our very favorite of topics, and just start a conversation about it. So I want to start by sharing a story. This was maybe 3 years ago now, and I was in a group situation. I had volunteered to be part of like a beta test of sorts, and I was in a learning environment with other people, and I hadn't been in that kind of environment since I was in grad school. So I was thrown back into a learning environment, and there was a mentor teacher at the front of the room. And we were about maybe a couple weeks into this experiment, this incubator experiment together. And the mentor just looked at me and said, "Whitney, have you ever failed?" And I paused and I was like, of course I've failed. I failed big, I failed small, I failed in the middle, I failed personally, I failed professionally, I failed academically. But the perception, the place that I interpreted this comment coming from is that this person didn't either think that I had ever failed or didn't think that I thought I had ever failed. So I was wrestling with two things there. I was wrestling with this perception of me that I had never failed. And I was wrestling with, what did I consider failure? And I've always had a really interesting experience with failure. I was not the kid, and I don't know what of this is gonna surprise you and what isn't, but I wasn't the kid that checked my grades at the end of the semester. Like, I didn't care. By the time I got to college, I was like, I'm probably doing well enough, it's fine. So I've never been grades-based. I've never really been outcome-based as it pertains to other people's opinions. I've always been outcome-based as it pertains to goals that I set. So when she asked me this question, I remember just thinking, well, how dare you think that I haven't failed? Because in my mind, I was like, how dare you think I haven't suffered? How dare you think that I haven't gone through the lessons that it takes to be a full human? Because you have to fail repeatedly in order to learn enough about yourself to keep moving on to the next thing. And so I started to have this deep mental relationship with my failure in a very accepting way at that point. And I think what has really allowed me as a professional to get accustomed to failure is working in photography. And the reason I say that is because photography is a constant failure. I mean, when I am doing a shoot with somebody, I may take 400 images and I only show them 60. Well, that's tons of images that I'm not sharing with them. When I'm outdoors and perhaps I don't get my exposure correctly, like that's happening all of the time. Now I know you guys are like, that's just such a crap example of failure because you have all these amazing photos to show. Sure. But that's because I am choosing to focus on the amazing photos that I show. If I go through my own shoots and I look through all of the mistakes I made, I feel that. I feel all of those mistakes. Like, oh, if I had only gotten this image in focus, it would have been the best image in the group. But I didn't. I missed it. I have to go on. I have to move forward. I can't focus on the image that I missed. I'm delivering, X amount of images that are amazing. And I am the only one that knows that I missed that shot. So I think that that's my first lesson in failure. We can share our failures, yes. But most of the time, we are the only people who are up close going to have a relationship with our own failure. So there's those small failures that are happening every day. So like when we don't get out of bed when our alarm goes off, that's a personal failure of mine very frequently. If I miss a workout that I committed to, that's a failure that I fear. that I don't fear, that I feel occasionally. So these are those small failures that we get to be in relationship with. But then there's the big failures. And I'm going to share a big failure with you guys that I had last year that taught me a huge lesson. So as a lot of you know who follow this around, follow me on these lives, last year I did a 4-month leadership program that was really intense, and it was out in San Diego. And the entire point of this leadership program was really to take an in-depth look at who I was as a person and really get clear about who I was as a leader, how I was showing up, how I was in connection with others, what I brought to the table, what was holding me back. And that had a lot to do with my relationship with failure. So throughout this program, we set a goal. And it has to be a stretchy, possibly unattainable goal. It has to be attainable, but it has to be further out than you've ever tried to attain before. So I set a really big goal. Really big. Guys, it was a really big goal. It was a goal that I set before I even put all of the pieces in place to even begin working towards the goal. So to say that I was outstretching myself is an understatement. But we have 3 months to work on this goal. So I'm working. I am making it happen. I am making the calls. I am putting things in motion. But it gets to be about a month out from this deadline, and I realize that I'm probably not going to hit my goal. I have that moment. I have that registering in my head of, I think that I miscalculated this, but I've already committed to my goal. It's in writing. I'm on a train. So the next month was really hard, and I had to realize that I was stopping myself a month from the deadline because I didn't think I could achieve it. So that was number one. I had to get through the mental block of thinking I was going to fail. Because if I approached the goal thinking I was going to fail, I was absolutely going to fail. So I had to let that go. And then as it got closer and closer to the date, I remember having a final meeting with my team and me just dissolving into tears. I was the very last person to go with my goal update. And I just dissolved into tears because I knew that I was not going to get to celebrate my achievement with the rest of my team. I knew that I was the only person on my team that wasn't going to get that graduation sticker, that gold star, the you achieved your goal. And it was in that moment that I realized that I had never appreciated my achievements enough. That as I have achieved things as an adult, as a child, I would just achieve it. I would expect that that's the way it should be because I worked hard, and then I'd move on. And so these achievements, these awards, these recognitions, whatever it was that was happening, I was just like, okay, cool, next. And I'm having all these thoughts as I'm realizing that I'm not going to get the biggest goal I've ever worked towards. So we get to graduation, and I'm among 75 people that I have been working with for 4 months, and most of them are graduating. Most of them are getting this like graduation thing, this object. And I know I'm not getting it because I didn't achieve my goal. And I'm sitting there waiting, for them to, I didn't think they were going to call my name at all because I didn't graduate. And then they call my name. They called my name as I had graduated. And I had to, in front of 77 people, tell them that they had made a mistake. So not only did I not achieve my goal, did I already feel incredibly crushed by not having achieved it and not receiving the recognition I felt like I deserved for a job well done. But I felt publicly humiliated on top of all of it. So this is all happening. And I was bound and determined not to let it affect my experience of this leadership program, of my relationships that I've made there. And over the past couple months, I've done a lot of thinking on not achieving this goal, of not receiving this award. And there were a couple moments where I wanted to go back to leadership and tell them and renegotiate and to go get what I deserved, because I put 4 months of my heart and soul into this program, and I deserve a glass cube that tells me that I got it done. And then I realized that this was the work I got to do. Like, this was it. I didn't need a glass cube, I needed to realize that sometimes I'm gonna fail, but that has nothing to do with my worthiness. It has nothing to do with everything that I achieved as I walked towards that failure. Because in that failure was so much success. In that failure, I achieved more than I ever thought possible. And I think that that's the real thing I needed to learn. That it doesn't matter if I fail, as long as I'm completely committed to action as I am walking on that road. So, if anybody ever asks you in front of a whole group of people if you've ever failed, I hope that you can look them directly in the eye and pridefully tell them that you have not only failed, but you have enjoyed it. Maybe not enjoyed it, but learned a lot from it. So I hope that this helps you in your relationship with failure. I know that we are all experiencing just a little bit of failure right now in one way or another. I have experienced a great amount of failure in the past 2 months simply by my inability to feel like I'm in control of anything. I am feeling bits of failure all the time. So if we can look at our failure as a pathway, if we can look at our failures as opportunities to learn, if we can look at our failures as the door towards the next thing or the realization, then I think it makes them not have this heavy weight. It makes them just the same thing as saying, like, I had a failure, I had a success. They're the same. They teach us the same thing. They just look a little different. We have different relationships with them. But if we can let go of our negative relationship with failure, then it could very, very easily start looking like a success. So I hope this helps. Let me know if you relate to this. If you're like, I don't relate to this at all, I think completely differently about this. I love the conversations that are happening in the comments after these. So good to see you guys this Wednesday, my friends. Take care of yourself and be well.